The more you chase it, the further it runs. The more you force it, the tighter it slips away. You plan, you push, you try harder. You visualize the outcome down to the last detail. You say the affirmations. You write the goals. You script the life you want. And yet, something always feels just out of reach, like you're standing on the edge of a breakthrough, but the door won't open. You ask yourself, am I doing it wrong? Do I need to want it more? Do I need to grind harder? But maybe that's not the problem. Maybe the problem is wanting it so much, you forgot how to let it come to you. Because when you grip something too tightly, you don't hold it, you suffocate it. And when your nervous system is clenched, no truth can land, no peace can flow, no clarity can rise. The I. Stoics taught this long before it was a TikTok trend. Tension is not power, control is not freedom. So maybe it's not about doing more. Maybe it's about doing less, but doing it differently. Not giving up, but giving space. Breathing softer, trusting deeper, because manifestation doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand what needs to shift inside you before anything can change around you. Story: the garden that couldn't grow. There was a woman named June. She dreamed of a garden, not just of flowers, but of peace. She planned everything, picked the finest seeds, read every book on how to grow beauty, and when it was time, she got to work. Every morning she checked the soil. Every night she adjusted the lights. She watered just right, controlled. Every inch, but nothing bloomed, not a single leaf, not a single bud, just stillness and silence. She blamed herself. Then the tools, then the world. She doubled down, pushed harder, fussed more. Still, the garden refused, until one day, something inside her whispered, "Let it breathe." So she stopped, not out of defeat, but surrender. She stepped away. Let the sun do what it does. Let the soil speak for itself. Let life take its time. Weeks later, she returned, and the garden had come alive, not because she controlled it into blooming, but because she trusted it enough to grow. Sometimes the seed knows what to do. It just needs you to get out of the way. Just like June, maybe you don't need to push more. Maybe you need to let life do its part. The first lesson is simple. Relaxing isn't weakness, it's a skill. Somewhere along the way, we learned that stillness means laziness, that resting means you're falling behind, that slowing down means you're giving up. So we glorify tension, we worship stress, we confuse anxiety for ambition. But ask yourself, is your body relaxed when you think about your goals, or are your shoulders tight, your jaw clenched, your breath shallow? That's not alignment, that's survival. The Stoics taught that true strength is calm under pressure, stillness in chaos, power without force. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, grind harder. He said, nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. So maybe what you need most is not another vision board, but a nervous system that feels safe enough to allow good things in. Because when your body is in fight mode, it doesn't let anything grow. Not creativity, not love, not opportunity. Relaxing is not weak, it's the doorway to all the things you're working so hard to reach. And like any doorway, it only opens when you stop banging on. The second lesson, breathe like it matters, because it does. Ever noticed how you only think about your breath when it's already gone? When your chest tightens, when anxiety shows up uninvited, when life feels too loud and you realize you haven't exhaled in hours. We say we want peace, but we never practice the one thing that makes it possible. We chase clarity while holding our breath like the world's about to collapse. That's the paradox. We want flow, but we breathe like we're in fight. Here's the Stoic truth no one told you. Your nervous system is the real gatekeeper of manifestation. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about breathwork, but he mastered himself through stillness. Stillness that starts not with silence, but with oxygen. Because when your breath is shallow, so is your thinking, so is your confidence, so is your ability to see options where your fear sees none. So, start here, right now. Breathe, not just to survive, but to reset. Inhale until your body feels like home again. Exhale until your soul stops running. No need to fix everything. Just give your breath back its power. Because the version of you that holds their breath through life will never become the version that lives it fully. And you already know this. Your calm isn't in the next achievement. It's in the next breath you remember to take. The third lesson is the one we rarely talk about. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what your nervous system believes. You can repeat the affirmations. You can script the future. You can visualize the life you crave down to the smell of the room and the softness of the light. But if your body doesn't believe it's safe to have that life, it will push it away. Because the truth is uncomfortable. We don't attract what we say we desire. We attract what feels familiar. If love used to hurt you, you'll flinch even when it's healthy. If success once brought pressure, you'll sabotage the next opportunity. If peace feels foreign, you'll stir up chaos just to feel at home again. And the most painful part? It's not conscious. It's patterned, it's wired, it's old. But the Stoics understood this in their own way. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, but not just thoughts. Your baseline state, your nervous system. That's why you can't mindset your way into growth if your body is still in survival." So here's the shift. Before you chase the next goal, before you ask for more, ask yourself, can I handle the good without bracing for it to disappear? Because what you call a block might just be your body still remembering the last time it let its guard down and paid for it. Healing isn't just about thinking better. It's about feeling safe enough to stop hiding from joy when your nervous system says, I'm ready. That's when things start to come, not because the world changed, but because you did. We've reached lesson 4, and it might be the one your heart resists the most, because for so long we were praised for holding on to people, to stories, to pain. We learned to be loyal, even when it hurt. We were told to stay, even when the door begged us to leave. But here's the truth you've been avoiding. Letting go isn't giving up, it's choosing to move forward without what holds you back. You keep checking on people who wouldn't even notice if you disappeared. You keep revisiting the same memories, hoping they'll change their ending. You keep rewriting yourself to stay inside stories you've already outgrown. And every time you say, I can't let go, what you really mean is, I don't know who I'll be without this. The Stoics never told you to suppress your pain. They told you to face it and then walk anyway. Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. But you can't be free if you're still chained to the weight you keep calling love or responsibility or just who I am. So here it is, letting go isn't failure, it's freedom. Not everything you lose is a loss. Some things are release, some things are return, some things are rebirth, and one day you'll look back and thank yourself for walking away from the thing you thought would destroy you, if you did. We've arrived at lesson 5, and it begins with a question. When did slow become a sin? When did we decide that rushing means progress, that faster means better, that quiet days mean we're falling behind? Somewhere along the way, we confused motion with meaning. We traded presence for productivity, and we lost the ability to move with purpose. So here's the 5th truth. Slowness isn't laziness, it's precision. The Stoics weren't frantic. They weren't obsessed with output. They believed in intention. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, hurry up. He said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That's not speed, that's discernment, because rushing is reactive. But slowness is a choice. It means you're no longer moving just to feel alive. You're moving because something within you is guiding the pace. And here's the paradox. The slower you go, the more you hear what actually matters. You notice the tension in your shoulders. You see the truth in a conversation. You sense when something isn't aligned before it costs you peace. So slow down, not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to be deliberate. Let the world race. Let them chase. You're not late. You're on purpose, and every slow, intentional step is a rebellion against the noise and a return to your inner compass. Here comes lesson 6, and it carries a quiet kind of pain, because healing is beautiful, but chasing it like a mission, that can become another prison. Not everything is meant to be healed. Some things are meant to be released. We live in a culture that tells you there's always more work to do, more shadows to dig into, more childhood to analyze, more trauma to decode. And yes, healing matters, but so does rest. So does release. So does the quiet decision to say, I don't need to carry this any longer, even if I never fully understand it. The Stoics didn't obsess over wounds. They faced reality, and then they acted. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask, why did this happen to me? He asked, what will I do with it now? That's the shift, because sometimes healing is a slow unraveling, and sometimes it's just putting it down without a final chapter, without a neat ending, without closure that never comes. You don't need to turn every scar into a beautiful metaphor. Some things happened, and they hurt, and that's all they'll ever be. And still, you can move forward, not because it's all fixed, but because you're done waiting for it to be. You're allowed to move on without a full explanation. You're allowed to release what hurt you without proving you're over it. You're allowed to stop trying to make peace with something that never even asked for war, because real healing isn't always a ceremony. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's just walking away. We've made it to lesson 7, and this one might surprise you, because the world keeps telling you, you just need more motivation. You need to want it more. You need to push harder. But deep down, you're not lacking drive. You're drowning in distraction. So here's the truth. You don't need more motivation. You need less noise. Noise from the outside and from within. Scrolling through lives that aren't yours. Consuming advice that only confuses you. Comparing timelines, counting likes, chasing validation. Noise pretending to be inspiration, but really just draining your focus. And the Stoics knew this long before we had phones. Seneca wrote, if you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. A person who can sit in stillness without reaching for the next dopamine hit. A person who isn't fueled by panic, but by purpose. Because real clarity, it's quiet, and it only shows up when you turn the volume down. And yes, it's hard. Silence can feel scary when you've spent your life escaping yourself through noise. But without silence, you don't hear your true desires, only echoes of everyone else's. You don't need more grind, you need more guidance. And it doesn't come from shouting, it comes from tuning in. So turn down the volume, mute the pressure, log off when it's not helping. Then ask yourself, what would my next step be if I stopped trying to impress everyone who isn't even watching? Because when the noise fades, what's left is you. And that's where the real direction begins. Lesson 8 begins with a quiet confession. You're not who you used to be. And that's okay, but here's the trap. You keep trying to be consistent with a past version of yourself that you've already outgrown. You told people you were the strong one. So now, even when you're falling apart, you smile like nothing's wrong. You built an identity around being reliable. So now you say yes, even when your body screams no. You branded yourself as the achiever. So now rest feels like failure. But who are you serving by being loyal to a self that no longer fits? Not your growth, not your peace, not your truth. The Stoics didn't demand consistency to the past. They demanded integrity to the present. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. That's not weakness. That's evolution. And you don't owe anyone a perfectly linear path. You don't have to explain your change. You don't have to justify your joy. You don't have to keep playing a role that your soul has already quit. Because every time you choose comfort in the known over truth in the becoming, you betray yourself a little more. So here's your permission. Let go of the job title you no longer care about, of the expectations that suffocate you, of the nickname, the brand, the vibe that once protected you, but now just cages you. You are allowed to be new, even if no one recognizes you anymore. Especially if you finally recognize yourself. Lesson 9 is simple, but for many, it's the hardest to embody. You don't have to earn rest, you just have to stop resisting it. Somewhere in your story, rest became a reward, something you buy with exhaustion, something you're only allowed after everything and everyone is taken care of. But here's the truth, rest isn't a prize, it's a biological need, and when you treat it like a luxury, you start living like rest is dangerous. You feel guilty when you slow down. You panic when you're not being productive. You scroll while lying in bed just to feel like you're doing something. But all that noise, it's not helping you feel alive, it's helping you avoid stillness. The Stoics didn't glorify constant action. They practiced measured, intentional effort followed by space. Seneca said, leisure without study is death, but study without leisure is madness. You were never meant to grind endlessly. You were meant to exert and then return to stillness to integrate, to reflect, to recover, because even warriors need a moment to sit beside the fire and breathe. You don't need to be exhausted to deserve softness. You don't need to prove your worth before allowing peace. You are already enough to deserve stillness. So today, pause, without apology, without achievement. Not because you've finished everything, but because you've remembered something deeper. You're not a machine, you're a soul, and rest isn't your weakness, it's your wisdom. And now, lesson 10. The one that turns everything upside down and also sets you free. Real power isn't control, it's surrender. From the outside, control looks strong. It looks structured, disciplined, tidy. But on the inside, it's often fear in disguise. You micromanage your days because uncertainty terrifies you. You plan 5 years ahead because the present feels unsafe. You try to fix everything and everyone because letting things unfold feels like failure. But here's what the Stoics knew that modern hustle forgot. Control is an illusion. Clarity is what you need. And clarity only comes when you stop clenching. You don't need to control everything. You need to control your response, your state, your choices. Because control says, I must force the outcome. But surrender says, I will show up fully and let life meet me where it will. And that's not passive. That's presence. That's courage. Marcus Aurelius didn't try to bend life to his will. He wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you, woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" That's not giving up. That's giving trust to something larger, something quieter, something that's been guiding you this whole time. So breathe. Soften. Take the next step, not because you've guaranteed the result, but because you've anchored yourself in the moment. That's real power, the kind that doesn't need to conquer, because it's already at peace. So here we are, 10 quiet truths, 10 inner shifts, no hacks, no hype, just a return to what was always inside you. And if there's one thing Stoicism teaches us, it's that peace is not passive, it's trained, it's chosen, it's protected, one small decision at a time, not through controlling everything, but by mastering what's yours, your habits, your pace, your mind, your breath. So if this helped you breathe a little deeper, see a little clearer, join the circle, subscribe and grow with us. Mini challenge for the comments. Which lesson hit you hardest? And what are you going to release starting today? Up next, we'll show you how to stop emotional spirals using one ancient Stoic trick that takes less than 60 seconds. And remember, Stoicism philosophy, clarity in the chaos.